Hallo, herzlich willkommen zu unserem Google Hangout zum Thema Skin mit Kiehls und Dr. Geyer.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So, noch ein paar Worte auf Deutsch für euch. Wir werden gleich das Interview auf Englisch machen. Wir werden ein paar Fragen stellen, die ihr auch eigentlich gestellt habt. Ja, und ihr könnt uns auch gerne natürlich noch unten in die Kommentare schreiben, wenn euch noch irgendwas dazu einfällt. Ja, und ich würde sagen, wir legen einfach mal los. Do you have any tips for blemished skin?
So many of my patients come to me for assistance with acne and blemish-prone skin. It's a very common concern for both men and women in the US of all ages, actually. More and more I'm seeing adult women battling acne, and certainly it's important to recognize that there are many causes of acne. It's not just one thing. We have to think about internal factors as well as external factors. Internally, it's the way our hormones impact our skin to create an excess production of oil and sebum. Externally, it can be factors that block the oil coming out of our skin, so making sure not to use makeup that's too heavy or mineral oil based or anything that occludes the skin. Number three, it's addressing bacteria. Sometimes it's helpful to use an antimicrobial cleanser. Even an over-the-counter can be helpful. And number four, it's addressing the inflammation in your system. And that can come from stress, from poor sleep, from the way diet impacts the skin, heavy sugar loads that spike our insulin levels. So it's really taking an outside-in and an inside-out approach to wellness to improve your skin. So sleep, rest, hydration, unblocking your pores with proper exfoliation, and when necessary, don't be afraid of seeing a dermatologist if all of that's not working.
Okay, perfect. And are there any particular tips regarding blackheads?
So blackheads are a challenge because all of us, or most of us, don't love our pores. And the truth is that pores in some way have a real genetic basis to them in terms of how they're likely to settle out in terms of size. There are things that can make them worse and things that can make them better. But for some people, that material or sebum just accumulates inside the pore. And for others, it forms a real acne type of a lesion or blackhead. It's important to exfoliate properly, whether using a chemical exfoliant like a glycolic or salicylic acid, or mechanically exfoliate for someone who has more blemish-prone skin. The important thing with an exfoliant, though, is if you're using a scrub on acne-prone skin where there are more inflamed blemishes, you don't want to damage your skin by being overly harsh. So using a fine bead is helpful and being a little bit more gentle than you might think. It's not all about the force with which you exfoliate. And I usually advise making sure to hydrate the skin afterwards and to exfoliate skin that's been freshly warmed so that you can facilitate extraction of the sebum through a combination of softening the wax or the sebum within the pore from heat and the action of the exfoliant.
Okay. Some people with oily skin are a little bit scared of hydrating their skin with moisture or with facial oils. So is there anything they should look out for or be aware of? So
I think that it's a mistake often for people with oily skin to avoid moisturizer altogether. And I think it's one of the kind of myths that somehow if your skin is oily that you shouldn't moisturize or you shouldn't avoid thicker products. The truth is, often our skin responds to how we are trying to remove the oil and strip the oil from the skin. And you develop a compensatory feedback loop where the constant stripping is producing more oil. And so I think that there is, for someone with oilier skin, more aggressive cleansing is good, but it has to be followed then by something that restores the barrier function and signals to your skin to not overproduce its own oil. And so oddly, or against what most people would think, actually using oils that are skin compatible, that have natural compositions similar to the sebum in our skin, like squalane, helps to balance the skin without occluding it. I would avoid thicker mineral oil-based oils on the skin or anything that's petrolatum-based for someone who is who's acne prone, but certainly you don't have to steer clear of oils altogether.
Okay.
Do you have any tips for the transition from younger and sometimes blemish-prone skin to adult skin?
Yes, I think that in our teens and 20s, a lot of us focus on oil control, appropriate cleansing, and really leave the thought of anti-aging products until we're a little bit older. But somewhere in the mid-20s zone, we start to recognize some early signs of aging that develop, whether it's an increase in brown spots, whether it's the formation of lines and wrinkles, whether it's around the eyes or on the face. And so that transition can be slow, but I think you don't need to jump into a 20-step regimen. But I do encourage patients in their 20s to start considering antioxidant-based serums, and certainly using that on a preventative basis in the morning. A lightweight serum rich in some form of an antioxidant can help stave off some of those early signs of aging without making it overly fussy or complicated. Because I think that's one thing that turns off a lot of young people just starting out in a regimen, is if there are too many steps, it's cumbersome.
Okay, speaking of getting older, when should we really start taking care of our skin with anti-aging products?
Well, my honest answer in terms of anti-aging products would be to start at age 6 months, because you have to think
I
of
missed that.
you have to think of sunscreen as your primary anti-aging product. And at 6 months of age is when it's appropriate to start using sunscreens. And I try to educate my patients that that really is, from a very early age, an anti-aging product. And that's my number one. In terms of when to start integrating more advanced products in terms of targeted issues, I think if we start in our 20s with something that is antioxidant rich and aimed at prevention and reducing the effect of free radical induced damage that comes from our environment, whether it's pollution or sun or sunlight, adding in targeted products and serums can be done gradually. But I think as the need arises and you spend more time in the mirror looking and thinking, oh my gosh, what is that? Is that a new wrinkle?
I know that feeling.
Then it's time to start stepping it up a notch and choosing something like a serum for morning, a cream for night that has some restorative or renewing properties. So you'll know when the time is right.
Okay,
Okay. And how long should we use the same care products till we can expect results?
And so I think there's two good points to that question. Number one is, how long does it take to see results from some products? And then how long should we continue on it without feeling like we should make a switch? I think that often people are too quick to abandon products when they don't see results. And I think that you need to give a product at least 3 or 4 weeks to really start to see any sort of substantial benefit without getting discouraged. It's a different thing if you put it on and your skin burns or it's an allergic reaction. But in terms of actually seeing true benefit, you've got to give a product time and not be swayed necessarily by every ad that you see that you've got to jump to that product. Give it time and use a product. But there is certainly truth to challenging your skin in different ways. And there are times when someone is happy but not thrilled with their regimen that they've done for a year or 2 years, and they are wondering whether they should make a switch. And sometimes I think it's good to keep the skin guessing. But that really should be based on whether or not you feel that you've plateaued and you're not perfectly happy with the regimen. So give it long enough in the beginning, but be willing to make a change if you feel like you've plateaued.
Okay, that leads perfectly to the next question. Can your skin accustom itself to products? So is there a need to switch up your routine after all? So maybe if I found a perfect product, can I use it for the rest of my life, or do I need to change it up sometimes?
I have patients who have used the same cream, or not to call it a beauty cream, but same night cream or day cream for a decade and absolutely swear by it. But then I have many patients, and myself included, where I feel that my needs change according to different seasons, and my concerns evolve in terms of different issues of laxity or lines and wrinkles. And so I think that there's no fundamental need that you have to change a cream if you feel like your hydration balance is good and your targets are being met. But I think that that with the breadth of concerns that we all develop over time, the truth is no one product is going to address all of those key concerns efficiently. So integrating products as you age, I think, is more important than necessarily just switching it out.
Yeah. Okay.
How do enlarged pores occur, and can we shrink them again?
So enlarged pores can occur. Most of the time, our pore size is more genetically determined, as I mentioned. But the truth is, the way we care for our skin can make our pores larger if we're not careful. So sebum can collect within pores, and that plug has the ability to oxidize and create stress and inflammation within a pore. So efficiently cleansing over time and appropriate, if someone occasionally has a facial to extract pores, but certainly the most important is cleansing appropriately, can minimize that dilation that can occur. There are ways that we can make our pores appear smaller, and then there are a few ways that we can actually truly shrink pores in some way. To make them appear smaller, there are oscillating brushes that can wiggle material out of pores on a daily basis. There are chemical exfoliants that can break up the sebum. There are scrubs that can help to withdraw material from pores, but most of that is focused on diminishing the appearance of pores. In my office, there are laser treatments, non-ablative fractional resurfacing lasers that can work to diminish the diameter of a pore. They've shown about 20% with a series of treatments. And there are some skincare products coming out now focus on stabilizing the proteins within that pore wall to actually diminish the true diameter. And so I think that there's an evolving understanding that it's not just about pulling out the plug, though that's important. We want to actually diminish the width. And so I think it is possible, but it's challenging.
Oh, okay, good. There's one current trend in skincare that's really big. It's Korean skincare, like the 10-step skincare system, stuff like that. So what do you think about layering multiple products? Is it worth the hype, or is it just a hassle?
I think it is worth the hype. I think that you have to look at yourself and think, is this just going to be a deterrent and I'm going to feel bad about what I'm not doing? Or are you going to actually see the benefit from using multiple products? If it's going to make you feel like it's a hassle and it's a constant burden, then just find one or two good multifunctional products, because they're out there, that have a breadth of effects. But I think that for the patient with more advanced concerns or who see their concerns advancing over time, layering can be very effective. Using and usually I say start with the lightest weight product first after cleansing, and then build from there, so it doesn't prevent the penetration of the subsequently applied steps. So I think that there are, if one really looks at cleanse, tone, treatment essence or water, serum, lightweight oil, moisturizer, sunscreen, you can get up to 7 to 10 steps in eye cream. I don't think that that's for everyone, but I do believe that by layering you can get added benefits.
Yeah, I'm trying it right now, and I think it works really well.
Good.
So summer is coming up, and we still want to pack on moisturizer and sunscreen. And is layering a no-go in summer? Or what should we do, or what can we do to prevent our makeup from melting off?
I think that you have to scale it down a little bit in hot, humid weather. The reality is when we're really battling the elements, we focus a little bit more just on simplicity and prevention. And so I think water-based serums can be very light and quickly absorbed. And sunscreen texture can be chosen to be very matte and lightweight. Kiehl's has the ultralight sunscreen that is one of my favorites because it really absorbs with the matte finish and is easily layerable. But what I also find is that if people feel like their makeup isn't pairing well with their layering, then switch to a tinted SPF. Try something that adds the tint in the product, and see if you get enough benefit in terms of that as coverage. Okay.
So a totally different topic. What can we do against dark spots?
So dark spots are increasingly recognized as something that can age affect how people perceive the health of our skin and our perceived age. And so it's not just the freckle, it's the broader sunspot that can give our age away. And so number one is prevention. So working with sunscreen every day. I know this sounds like a broken record, but it's not just about when you're at the beach. It's making sure that through the window here, we're getting reflected UVA rays in our car, walking to work. So we need to really commit to putting sunscreen on it every day to prevent the dark spot. But when it's occurred, a few things. Number one, there are ideal spot treatments that can be applied onto a spot as part of a regimen, or you can use a serum all over, usually with a combination of ingredients. Vitamin C works very well on pigmentation. Licorice, there are many, mulberry extract, but certainly using a targeted dark spot product as part of your regimen is important. But it is slow going, and the reality is unless you commit to staying out of the sun, all the work that you do using your dark spot removal products is going to be for naught, because of 1 or 2 days in the sun and they will come back. It's not to say don't fight the fight. It's just have it as part of your regimen with sunscreen.
How much sunscreen do we need to wear, and is there a difference between summer and winter time?
So the rule of thumb for sunscreen is a shot glass of material, a 1 ounce amount is enough to cover the sun exposed sites of your body. It is something that is a general guideline, and certainly the big mistake that people make is they think, oh, I'm going to put on a higher SPF, so I'm not going to reapply the sunscreen. But the truth is, even a good healthy amount like that that's applied in the morning is going to have to be reapplied later in the day, because the SPF factor wears off, or SPF protection wears off throughout the day, and we are left unprotected at the end of the day, assuming that we can be outside because we have sunscreen on. So if you put on a shot glass, it lasts about 2 to 3 hours only. And for a lot of people wearing makeup, sometimes using a brush with sunscreen in it can help rather than having to reapply a full layer at work. But it is something that is important to apply ahead of walking out the door by 15 to 20 minutes to let it soak into your skin.
Okay, I think we are all set. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It was very interesting. Ja, und ich sage noch ein paar Worte auf Deutsch. Ich hoffe, es hat euch gefallen. Wenn ihr noch mehr Fragen habt, könnt ihr die natürlich immer noch unten in die Kommentare stellen. Ja, und dann sehen wir uns ganz bald wieder. Leider nicht live, aber in einem neuen Video. Bis dahin. Tschüss.
Cheers. Bye.
Great.